Are you a man who's struggling with being vulnerable with yourself and in life? This is the right book for you to read. The Man Who Bends in the Storm. I'm just going to read it kancane la ngemuva. This book is a series of carefully crafted, indirect stories that speak directly to men. It's prudently interwoven to help men who are drowning in misconceptions of masculinity to stay afloat. It's meant to reveal bigoted societal expectations of men. And last but not least, it's meant to help women understand their emotions. Yo, today's episode is going to be fire. Now I'm going to read this one. It's Kubamba Ezingelayo by Thulani Yeyeye. You know, ithi kule ncwadi ethi Kubamba Ezingelayo, umbhali uThulani Yeyeye Gumede ukhiphe amagwevu anzima ezama ukususa inkungu ezingqondweni ezigqilazwe ngukukhangeza nokwenzelwa. And these are just some of his books. This is some of his works. And today we get the privilege of interviewing Thulani Yeyeye. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Thulani in the studio. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for making time, Betu.
It's pleasure is all mine. Yeah.
Yo. This book changed the way I become vulnerable as a man.
Yeah.
And this one, I've read one chapter.
Yeah.
And it has challenged me not to be umuntu okhangezayo at all, but to be a man who's a hunter.
Yeah.
It's kubamba ezingelayo. Ayikho inkomo yobuthongo. But I'd like us to just jump straight into a little bit of your background, Betu. You know, a lot of people know your work right now, but I just want to get a little bit about where you grew up, how did you grow up, and what affected the way you write. Yeah.
Sure. No, but ngiyabonga mfethu. History mfethu it's indawo ehlukahlukene, you know. But mangathiwa ngaqala ngakhuluma ngokwasokhulu, you know. Khona indawo kuthiwa kwasokhulu nasenseleni, you know. So umuntu ukhulele between these two places, kwasokhulu nasenseleni. And then in 1989, I think we moved to Eskaleni. So kwakusetshenziswa eSikhawini around that time, you know. And then in 1988, I lost my father, Ubaba Washona, you know. I think that yona into ngayibona exposed entweni ehlukahlukene ezangishiya ngicabanga and viewing the world. I started asking a lot of questions ngimncane kakhulu, you know. So I think most of the things that I'm writing right now, when I look back and noma reflect, ngiyabona ukuthi that upbringing, you know, as a child, it raises a lot of questions. And then now I think I'm at a place where, as much as I don't give answers, but certain questions that I ask, I think they do evoke certain things in other people. Because I think if there's one thing from my upbringing that I would say I've really learned, it was just me understanding human nature. We tend to be comfortable with biggest elephants in the living room, knocking things around and nobody wants to talk about it. So most of the times when I speak, a lot of people will want to applaud me as if I'm a greatest thinker or what. But basically, I just speak about what is in front of everyone. It's just that people do not have, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, I would say they don't have guts to really speak about such. So I've been that guy.
Wow.
From that upbringing, I think it kind of like prompted me to really look at things the way I do.
Wow.
And write the way I do.
Wow.
And even when I speak, it's just the living room that I keep analyzing. I see this biggest elephant that is knocking things around. But the minute I highlight them, it's kind of like people's eyes get opened. This is happening. But I'm like, but it's been there all along,
Sure,
you know.
Sure.
So yeah, that's who I am. You know, I'm shaped by the challenges that I went through. you know,
Yeah.
and some I'm still grappling with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, speaking about Nhlaka,
Yeah,
I remember you were hosting an event in Bangin.
that's correct. Yeah.
But you know what crossed my mind?
Mm,
That I was a bitter man
mm,
regarding igama lasenzeleni
Sure.
because my father was killed there.
oh,
You know,
sure.
and
Sorry to hear that.
and
man.
you taking us
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
just invoked
Yeah.
that feeling which,
Yeah.
oh God of God, I've had to
Sure.
go through a healing
Yeah.
journey, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's incredible, bruh.
Mm.
And what kind of family do you grow up in?
Yeah. When Ubabe shona in 1988, Sala Noma, you know, so I think around the time it was 5 of us. I think there's 3 siblings that we kind of like lost before I was born because I'm the last born at home, you know. So yeah, so I'm the
spoiled one.
Yeah, so they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, sure. I think that's on its own kind of like played its major role in making me the person that I am because I mean, when I write about fatherhood, I keep highlighting that thing as well. When a father figure or a male figure is not present with family structure, there are certain things that are affected. So yeah, I think one thing that was the biggest question in my life was the longing, or should I say the void, was the longing for a male figure in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that I kept on seeking or searching for.
Wow.
To a point, Uguti, even as young as I was, you know, I kept on, you know, looking across the fence to see the role of a man across the fence, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time, I think I must have been 8 or 9. You know, you are out there, you are playing, and then, you know, during the festive season, you know, you see your friends, fathers coming back home. And I remember very well vividly, which is one of the things that I think I'm blessed with, the memory, you know. Some of the things that I remember can trace back, you know. So I remember rushing back to my mom just to say to her, isn't it that my brother is the same as my father, you know?
Sure.
Because my big brother that time was Jabulani before he passed, you know. He played like a father figure,
Yeah.
but I could see that he was also drowning in his own world because,
Sure.
you know, when you are you know, a bigger brother and then your father dies, you get shoved into, you know, the head of a family role, you know, while you're still trying to find yourself and you find yourself having to lead, you know. So I think I kind of like sense that with him. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, the background, you know, I am just this guy who kind of like really experienced poverty, I would say at the highest level, you know.
Yeah.
Not to undermine what others are going
Yeah.
through, but I think what we went through, especially when Sister Stena, you know, not a Stena, sorry, it's Kawin. You know. Yeah, I mean, I drive around that area now and it's just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I remember driving with my sister, it just didn't make sense that I was driving around that place, you know, because of the level of poverty that we experienced, you know. I think my mom used to go around, you know, just to get that 5 rand, you know. She would just leave home in the morning not knowing what we were going to have in the evening.
Yeah.
And then Mangiago H1, J1, this Kawin, you know, I'm like, hey, I can't believe you. At times you even find yourself in spaces where people kind of like, for a lack of a better word, it's like they idolize you. But, you know, when you like look at it, they, yeah, if you guys knew me, you know, who I was, like early 90s around this area, you know.
But what kept you focused, man? Because, you know, coming from a family that is experiencing poverty and the community might not be healthy as well, you know, what kept you focused?
Yeah. But I think one thing that I've learned about life is that kind of like a lot of us are searching for things we don't know. We can't even, you know, we can't articulate, we can't really paint a picture of what is it that we are looking for.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where we're like, this is the thing I've been looking for, you know. At times you mingle with the wrong crowd and then this thing, because it's like a calling, this thing is rerouting you, it's directing you. You don't have a clear picture at that point in time, So I think at times we do fall into temptation of trying to give these big reasons as to how we survived certain things. Because I think I remember Ngaboba 93, 92, 93, yeah. I was still very young, but the crowd that I was with, I think they were starting to experiment with this Mokwai, So, I did as well play around with all cigarettes and whatnot, Fortunately, 94, I was moved from Escalini to Westenga, because just to maybe share a brief story there, my first year, like Ugeskoleni was 1990,
Yeah.
91 I did second year, or my second year. So then I think it was 92. No, 91 I failed second year. 92 I had to repeat,
Yo.
So 93, Mama got sick. 93 and 94, meaning I couldn't go to school, because I'm the last born. And then my mother had to settle for my sister. It's okay, because this guy, Omat, is still finding his feet with school. So let me pay for his sister.
Yeah.
So 2 years there I lost, and then 94, I came to Stenga. Then 95. And, 90, with the 2 years, I think that's when my mind was really moved, because a lot of people were going to school. I was the only one not going to school. So I don't know how, but there was this thing that was pushing me. Whenever they would come back from school, I would want them to play with me. Let's play houses. But the idea about it was, let's play schools.
Wow.
What is it that you learned at school? Let's play around that. So I started wanting to really, really, know more about school, and so yeah.
Wow.
It kind of like shaped me, because
Yeah.
95, when I went back to grade 3, then I was totally different,
Sure.
Like I was just this new guy starting at a new school, and then I'm driven now,
Yeah.
As much as I was still regretting, because you look at the year that I failed, the 2 years, the guy that I started with in about 1999, as much as we were no longer together, but my mind could really calculate, if I'm doing grade 3, I should be doing standard 4 around the time, So I kept on calculating up until I finished to matric,
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you remember there was this specific moment where you can point to, this is when I started my leadership role?
Leadership role, it's that question is loaded, because I've always been that guy. I think up to this day, to a certain extent, I am that guy who's running away from certain responsibilities. And when you look at leadership, as much as it goes with influence, what I've seen with me is just that I've been fortunate to rub shoulders with people who keep seeing things ngami,
Yeah.
As young as I was, even when I was not going to school, there were certain things that people would see ngami in relation to leadership.
Yeah.
Whether the way I influence their friends, as much as I will not take a leading role, isn't to say that is the leader.
Yeah.
But even behind the scenes, that's how, up to this day, when we talk leadership, I think most of the times we think leading from the front, So I get uncomfortable whenever I'm expected to really be at the front, because I feel like I lead better when I'm at the back.
Sure.
Just that influence. Like, a lot of people will agree with me that I tend to use less words whenever I'm in the group, But there was a time in my life, I think when I was in primary school, when I realized that as shy as I am, I tend to be controlling, not controlling in a negative way, but I tend to be influencing our conversations, You go back, you analyze the conversations that were being discussed in the group, and then you realize that you were contributing like 80% of that.
Yeah.
That is influence on its own.
Yeah.
So when I was in primary, I think I started noticing that,
Yeah.
that I would throw in just a word or two.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the discussion will change. It will be
Wow.
about this thing that I've just brought in,
Yeah.
and then I'll sit at the back, throw in another word, So up to this day,
Yeah.
unfortunately now, because of the exposure, people expect so much from me. But I am that leader who enjoys sitting at the back, study the room, and just influence.
Wow.
I have to say this. I get uncomfortable when people want to shove me into the front because I know where I'm good at.
Yes, sir.
I know where I'm good at. I can easily burn out by you putting me on the front.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so now, and then you get through high school, then you get to university. What were some of the challenges that you faced at the university?
Especially here in UKZN, because straight from matric, I came to the UKZN. I think the biggest challenge for me was time management.
How did you master that, bro?
Firstly, when I got here, I just couldn't understand why they will have soccer fields at such a tertiary institution. Because for me, it was like, we need more libraries and all that, know. So, and that was the biggest challenge. I'm highlighting that because it affected me severely, It was later when I began to really manage my time and understand that you need to make time for your books, and then as soon as you're done, take your mind off, find something else to do, something totally different, whether it's walking or jogging or playing or something that is totally out from your books. I think the minute I mastered that, I found myself excelling.
Wow.
Interestingly, when I look at the undergrad, the postgrad, which was my honors, and then the masters, I feel like, interestingly, at the master's level, that's when I really felt, that's when I was cruising.
Sure.
Undergrad, I really struggled because of the change.
Yeah.
You come from your high school, or you were doing well, everybody knew you, and then you come to this place where you don't know how to manage your time.
Wow.
You have to do things yourself, cooking and all that. So it was just a struggle balancing that, but I did get it right ultimately.
And you survived university.
No, we did.
Well, abanye bavele bathi abavele basinikeze lama degree,
And just on that, I think another thing that really kind of like made it difficult for me was we got saved 2005 when I was doing my first year, in March, the same month I was born. So, salvation, umusanda kuibamba, iba a challenge because, you are at the library, but it's Sunday, you're thinking about the evening service now, Not because they are pushing you at church, but the excitement. You just want to be in the midst of the Abazalwane. And then find yourself in a position where you're like, should I go full time? Is it still worth my time to do commerce? Those were some of the challenges that I think I felt even most of my friends grapple with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo. Bro, and then so now, how do you get to a place where you're writing your first book?
I think
what led to that?
Maybe to go around in circles or ramble a bit. So while I drive to that point,
yes, sir.
I think art was just the thing that I feel uNkulunkulu wayengibusise ngayo. Because when I was in primary, I was an artist. I used to draw pictures, even in high school. It led to me winning my school a computer, which was the biggest thing back then. Because I think we only had one computer. At my school in Graville High School. So, and then I started writing poems as well. With some of my friends in high school, I started writing rhymes. Hip hop. I was heavily involved in that. Poetry. And then I would listen to Kozi FM, Dori, Then I would try to write some stories as well. So I would have those moments where I create a story out of whatever that I'm going through, I'm thinking of,
Sure.
And then when I finished tertiary, then I get married, and then to a lovely lady, Unompilo.
Uh,
And then, yeah, and then we lose a child, you know, the firstborn to Ngaba in a 6 months. Masim loser. And then as a guy, I found myself struggling now with grief, how to process grief and all that, you know. And then that kind of like pushed me now to write a book, you know.
sure.
Because whenever I was searching for this book that I wanted to read during that time, I just couldn't find it, you know. You know, you are going through this thing on and whatever books that my hands could find, bekuyizincwadi engangifeel ongazuthi they were written by people who were detached from pain, you know, trying to give solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt, let me write a book that would feel like it is written by somebody who's heavily hurt, you know, severely hurt. And I was going through that, you know. And also it counts, a school of thoughts of Pumaksona, you know. My school of thoughts, it's I can have a conversation with God, you know. I'm not going to assume whatever that is happening as if I just need to accept it as it is.
Yes,
So questioning things as well, whatever that was on my mind, I put it on a piece of a paper, and then it led to it becoming a book, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, which, you know, it's a book on vulnerability, just a man sharing his pain and frustration, even asking God questions.
Wow.
My background allows me to do that.
Yeah.
I can ask questions. you
Yeah.
know. As much as I know he's the ultimate, you know,
Yeah.
but asking God questions, it's something that is encouraged where I come from, you know.
Wow.
Yeah,
So there was a first book.
that was my first.
But
yeah.
now, how, like, did you wanna share your wrestling with other people who might be going through the same difficult phase?
Yeah, sure. You mean what I've written in the book?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's firstly the few chapters are narrating what really happened. You know, here's the thing with grief. Grief in stages, traditional stages of grief. You know, bakhuluma ngo-shock, you know, musanda kuzwa indaba, kube no shock, kube khona denial, you know, you kind of like you don't believe this thing has happened, you know, kube khona anger, you know, and then we told us ungena depression because you are angry. Maybe at that point in time you are not praying, you know. But interestingly, during a shock, nelento lena, abanye abantu might feel, hey, this guy is strong, you know. Only to find the shock, his system magaga process later
Yeah.
So and then kube khona anger, you know, nebhaga and ebese kuba khona forgiveness, you know.
Yeah.
So umubuka the book, it follows that
Wow.
those stages of grief. So you'll find with early stages, it's like I've accepted what has happened, you know. And the acceptance is the stage, you know. Kusuke kungakabi acceptance, so kusakwi shock, you are
Sure.
numbed, you know, and then you don't believe this thing is happening. Ubona abantu befika kwakho and all that. But I think the main thing that which the book covers, you know, I'm encouraging people to really express themselves, you know.
Yeah.
I think there are few places, even the church at times, the church, inverted commas, because I know, you know, it's difficult to put a church in one category, but
Yes,
the church, sometimes we can throw in scriptures, hoping those scriptures will just heal people. And people have questions, people are angry, you know. So I'm covering a whole lot of things, but also encouraging people and also sharing some experiences. At times we feel when people are going through the loss, we need to have words of wisdom and encouragement. And at times we just need to sit next to the person who's going through, you
Yes,
know.
sir.
And if you don't have anything to say, you are allowed not to say anything.
Yeah.
Because most of the times we find ourselves saying things that might be hateful,
Sure.
you know. So it covers that, but also asking God questions, you know. The beautiful thing that we find in the book of Job, which I keep highlighting it to go to. Firstly, I wrestled with that book, and you know, Job, because when you look at what Job went through, and then that interaction with God, Guma closing chapters, I kept on asking myself, why? Because I expected God to say, hey Job, I'm really sorry,
Yes.
Kahle kahle, what happened? Yeah, we had a discussion with the devil, and then this is what happened.
Mhm.
Then I allowed these things to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm really sorry that you had to go through this. But I think what fascinates me about that story, it's when it's when God starts asking this guy about Tuguti, where were you when I did this
Yo.
and that?
Yeah.
And this guy is hating.
Yeah.
Those questions are not fair. Why are you asking this guy? Shouldn't you be explaining yourself
Yeah.
now? What led to this guy going through pain? But no, God is not doing that. Instead of him doing that, he is asking him, where were you when? Do you know what happened, Linda? Because when now you seem to know so much, you are challenging me, right?
Yeah.
Do you know about this? And then the beautiful thing that we find in that book is that Job gets it. Because the reason why God was asking him that, he was just trying to remind him who he is.
Yo.
He is trying to take Job to a place where Job will realize who God is.
Yo.
So whoever is going through the pain and the suffering, I'm not gonna rush you to get to that place, but the most beautiful place you can ever find yourself is the place where you realize who God is. Because at times, depending on the school of thought that you come from as well, seeking for answers and all that, imagine seeking for answers and then what you get is just a reminder of who God is.
Yo.
Meaning you might not get the answer to your suffering,
Yeah.
but the reminder who God is.
Yo.
Because we loosely talk about God being the all-knowing, all-powerful,
Yes, sir.
and all that. But I think the most powerful thing is when you get to a place where you know who He is.
Yo.
And then that settles it.
Sure.
It settles it.
Wow.
You knowing. Again, me saying I'm not rushing people to that stage. For me, that was the breakthrough of my pain. Because I grappled with this thing, man. I stopped praying. I went through depression. And then in Linfield Park, I visited another church in Stenger, True Vine. And then I'm driving close to midnight, I'm doing about 120 midnight in rushing back home. I'm still fuming, I'm angry, I'm not praying and all that. And then out of nowhere, because I'm doing 120, I see Nkomo crossing the road, the cows were crossing the road. And I just couldn't apply my brakes, I had to sweep through the head of crowd of cows. And then my left side mirror was smashed. I took some photos I sent to some of my friends who say, what happened last night? And then my sister, Sis Rose, and then she said to me, hey, we thank God because I've been praying for you. Nompilo, on the other hand, she's been seeing this group of people coming to our place as if another person had died.
Yo.
So my sister as well, she had some dreams in relation to me dying, So when I survived that accident, it was just a reminder.
Yo.
The way I took it, it was like, because I'd been challenging God all along. It was like Him reminding me, ukuthi, I'm in charge.
I'm in charge.
Ukuthi ngi-allowa ubani ukuthi ashone nini kanjani.
Yeah.
Our school of thoughts again, I'm going to keep referring to that. Our school of thought, we don't believe in God imposing pain on us, but it's that thing of Him allowing it. So we don't believe that God inflicts us with pain, but He allows it,
Sure.
So that was the biggest thing for me. It was just the turning point for me, which as I'm saying, He is still in control.
Sure.
That for me, and I don't know if some people are watching me right now and they're hating.
Yeah.
I am not trying to impose anything on you, but I'm telling you, the day or the minute you get to that place where you realize who God is, I'm not saying right now you don't understand that, but the anger and the frustration, you are allowed to go through those emotions.
Yeah.
But the day or the minute you get to a place where you are reminded who God is, it doesn't take away the pain, but that understanding is so powerful and beautiful.
Yo, that's brilliant, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, thanks for sharing that, And so fast forward, so you've written so many books. The one that I'm looking forward to reading is Impumelelo Kamatageni.
Yeah.
And then you get to how men process their emotions.
Yeah.
And what inspired this book, The Man Who Bends in the Storm?
There are many facets to that, Mpetu. Whether you are looking at statistics as South Africa, or 79% of people who commit suicide are besilisa,
Sure.
Now, my interactions that I will have with people, you get to see some struggles that men are faced with, So, also, after I had done 2 books, Fathering Shadows and Fathering in the Dawn, those 2 books kind of like led me to a place where I'm interacting with men. And then I realized, men are really battling,
Sure.
Also growing up, I used to see a lot of during the day and all that, but and then there will be this vulnerability,
Yeah.
Where they then approach me, I never knew my father, I grew up like this and all that. And then I started realizing, men, we are taught to open up.
Yes,
And then you realize that, no, men have got tons of stories to share.
Yes,
It's just that when the environment is not conducive, they do not open up. So, and then I just felt, let me write a book on vulnerability, because for me, I feel vulnerability is strength.
Yeah.
Vulnerability comes from the word to wound. So, a strength in vulnerability. But mutata ibandage will keep a slondeni. Ufagwa something, you're applying umuthi.
Yes,
It's painful, it's vulnerability,
Yeah.
but there's a healing that goes with that, So a lot of guys need to get to a place where they really get to speak about whatever that they're going through, Of course, in a safe environment. What I've seen, I remember doing the study about Amalen mines, And then while I was doing a study about that, it led me to researching about some of the landmines that were planted in Mozambique. So then I was fascinated with how landmines can stay underground for more than 50 years.
Sure.
The minute you stamp on it, kuma, and
Sure.
then your legs,
Sure.
So when you look at men, some of them, they could be in their 60s, 70s, but the minute you listen, you realize that they're still struggling with some of the things that happened to them when they were very young, So the thing of vulnerability is just me trying to take men to a place where they will talk about some of these things that they've never shared with anyone.
Sure.
Because the biggest thing about that, whether it's molestation or what, and some it's difficult to talk about that, because I remember when I was at tertiary, in fact, it was a high school. One guy was trying to open up about that. We just couldn't understand. Why is it an issue? You're a guy,
Yeah.
that mindset, So you find abantu abaningi, they are going through that.
Yeah.
And then in trying to hide that, you'll overdrink, abuse alcohol and drugs, whether it's pornography. It comes in different formats, whatever that you gravitate towards, trying to hide from this pain,
Wow.
So then when I write this book, I cover all those things,
Wow.
just trying to usher men to a place where they realize they're not talking about their own vulnerability. What is the damage of that, Because you can't even father your family the way you should, because, you are dealing with something that you haven't, disclosed.
Yes.
Imagine when you come back from work and your colleague or your boss was talking anyhow to you, You carry that to your family. When your boss says, we are proud of you, there's a promotion, you carry that to your family as well. The minute you get home, you're like, hey, what are you doing in the kitchen? We're eating out today.
Yeah.
Whatever that you go through, whether it's good or bad, whether you like it or not, you carry it.
Yeah.
That's why when you're driving and somebody does something bad, you carry that to your next driver.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all the drivers are not driving nicely because of what frustration that you experience.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show men that until we get to a place where we speak about these things, we are social beings after all. So it is on us to really talk about these issues.
Bro, wow, that's incredible, bro. One of the things when I've just opened the book, you're speaking about trees, or which there's
yes,
there's a tree that is like in a mandla or something like that.
That's correct.
It's strong, then mekufika ikhukhula it breaks.
That's correct.
You know,
Yeah.
and there was some different types of tree.
That's correct.
Which when the storm came,
Yeah.
that tree bent.
Yeah. It looks weak.
It looks weak.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really. I don't know. I don't think I'm quoting you exactly as you wrote it.
That's correct.
But I think that was like the idea behind it.
I mean, it's kind of like, this word I wanted to use. I don't know. I don't remember when last I used it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I know. Let me not use it because.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that is like, for lack of a better word, it's an epitome. It kind of like covers everything. You know, the whole book. If one could understand that example that I made of that tree.
Yeah.
If one could get that, the whole book is around that.
Wow.
Because a lot of guys who act tough, when you scratch the surface, you get to realize that, hey, these people are really, really battling.
Yeah.
Let me make a loose example. When a loved one dies in a family, I saw it repeatedly in my own family, because most of the times when I lose a loved one, I don't know, it's just I would say the pattern that I tend to follow. It's a shock and then I act strong for everyone. But after a few months, when people have accepted that, whoever died is departed, it's later on that I get to, realize this is what has happened.
Yeah.
So my family is amaning. Those people who will act muscular as if I know I'm a man, I can handle this. They tend to really, really break later on, and a lot of guys that I tend to sit and listen get to realize that when this is what happened. You never spoke about this thing, you keep trying to hide this thing, and I mean, one of the songs that I like in bed, because I listen to different genres, my favorite song by Kendrick Lamar, is Mama Asoba,
Sure.
One of the songs in that song, it talks about him seeing these guys who sing rap, He says, I see them acting big and strong, covered in tattoos. But when I really scratch the surface, I begin to see that these guys, they were molested when they were young, And they're trying to hide these things, I mean, where we come from, it's all about utsotsi, carrying knives and guns and tattoos and acting all tough. But almost every person who acts tough, whenever I sit next to them deliberately to really open up an environment, they reach a stage where they're like, this is not who I am.
Yeah.
This is what happened to me,
Sure.
So when you allow people to really tell their story, you begin to realize, hey, even this guy who's a boxer who's knocking everyone down, when you sit next to them, they're grappling with something. Up until they get to disclose that.
Sure.
Just a last point on this, Mpetu. Being where I am right now, not trying to run away, to run ahead of you, but I've learned, or I'm still learning, with some of the best messages that we share, they come from places people will never understand. I've seen powerful messages, powerful ministries that when you scratch the surface, you begin to see the people who are eating out of this tree, they will never know what it took. The vulnerabilities, the fears, the anxieties. You are always at the podium or on the podium, sharing your stories, giving people hope and encouragement. But nobody knows where the thing comes from. They're just enjoying it because they feel, hey, we are blessed, God is great. But there are very few people who really sit back and say, I wonder where that comes from.
Bro, wow, that's incredible, bro. Tell me about, was it your uncle Jabulani?
My brother.
Your brother, your brother Jabulani.
Yeah.
Just can you share a little bit about that story, because it also connects to a hip hop legend, Jabulani.
And my cousin as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And
no, but Jabulani was my big brother. So he's the guy. When my father died, he kind of like was shoved into that role of becoming the head of the family.
Yes, sir.
And I think the reason why he's brought into the story, it's because growing up, I cherished him as a brother and a father figure,
Yes, sir.
And then as soon as I started working, I had plans, obviously, which I wanted to, honor him for what he did.
Yes.
and then turns out to he will sadly die within 6 months or so. You know. And being the last born at home, you know, I'm thinking at that time, hey, you know, I'm still gonna be just this guy. And then what happened to him happens to me now. I'm finding myself in that position now where I'm kind of like heading the family, you know. And I think those were some of the things that I never really processed until I found myself sitting with the therapist, you know. And I think this is one of those things that makes me feel ukuthi lento therapy nokukhuluma about your challenges is critical.
Sure.
Because when I was there, the catalyst for me being there was that we had lost a child.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But when I sit in a couch and then I'm put in a place where I need to tell my story as to why I was there, I found myself talking about my brother, you know.
Yeah.
So me enjoying analyzing things, and I'm like, where did that come from now?
Yeah.
Because I should have spoken about the child.
Yeah.
But I found myself speaking about my brother who had like at that point in time, I think he had died like more than 6 years or so, you know. And then I'm not trying to be a psychologist or you know, acting as if, you know, but it kind of like realized whatever that you have not dealt with or processed, it's lying somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
Because the things that I spoke about was, I felt like, you know, I was just thrown in the deep end, you know, which is not, it would have been okay had it not been that Jabulani was taken out of the picture.
Yeah.
Because there was so much that was around him, you know,
Yeah.
that happened. So that for me was just an eye opener, you know. The whole story, looking at him, how I write about it, the challenges that he went through as a man, and people coming through to be with him, you know, and then could find they were not there to really console him, that this, you know, your wife or your girlfriend has left you.
Yeah.
But that thing of masculinity, which as a man, don't use your feelings, you know. If a woman walks out of your life, dust yourself off onto the next one, you know. So those are some of the things as well that I kind of like highlight in the book. Traditionally, men are still robbed. They're finding themselves in a position where, or in a place where they are feeling these things, but they don't know how to really go about expressing themselves, you know. Because almost everyone we are not sure how to really express ourselves. You know? You talk about your vulnerability, you're weak, you know. And one of the things that I talk about in the book is that analyzing our society, it feels there's an honor when a man commits suicide than for a man to really be on the podium and say, I've been battling with this thing, you know.
Why?
You know.
Why do you think we tend to think like that as a society?
It's not a thing for today. It's just been like that. You know, we just don't know. But it's been like that for quite a long time. And when you analyze our generation, I think we are at a place where we are trying to fix a whole lot of things at the same time. But now, for us writing such books, I think we are challenging that as well. You know, it is one of those biggest challenges that we are faced with, because even with women these days, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but even these days, there is that wave of women saying, you know, they are encouraging men to express themselves. You know, some are worried that their guys have never expressed their feelings. I've been in a relationship with him for over a year. He has never shed a tear. You know, now men are finding themselves in a position where they don't know how to feel, because they are still trying to figure themselves out to go to Baoban. And then you have these women now. We don't know. We are still figuring out how to go about. But it's something that will change in the long run. But I'm one of those guys who happens to be before front, even if it's a mover, but my work is trying to really 100%. Take a nation, you know. I mean, to be on Ukozi FM, you know, which is like a radio station with millions, you know, and speak about such, you know. When I started, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I could see that it wasn't. In fact, I started more, um, um, 8 years ago, yes,
Wow.
to really speak about this on Ukozi. I could tell at the point in time, it was really difficult for
Yes,
people
sir.
to really,
Yeah.
come to terms with it.
Mhm.
But when I look at it now, I can tell, Uguti,
Wow.
there's a huge improvement,
Wow.
Yeah, there is a very huge improvement. But we thank God,
Yo.
It's not an easy thing because
Mhm.
the opening chapter, you stand on a podium, you talk about this thing, and then fingers are pointing out at you. But
Yeah.
even the people who are struggling with this thing, they're like, I know.
Yeah.
He is the one with the problem. He is weak,
Sure.
He is the vulnerable one, And you're like,
There's some Zawala.
yeah, but let me come back to the point I started with. The saddest thing about our nation is that we applaud men who commit suicide, and the ones who express themselves, we want to bury them alive. Yeah.
Yo. Whew.
Yeah,
So deep, bro.
sure.
Yo, that's
Yeah.
so deep, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yo, like it just hit home, bro.
Sure.
Just hit home, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a powerful book, bro. It's
Yeah.
it's so impactful. And then whilst we were, I remember when we were recording our last episode that didn't air, you were speaking about what you were writing another book.
Yeah.
I guess was it this one or was it a different one?
Yeah, it must have been this one because
Must have
that
been
book
this one.
comes after this. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So why Gubambe Zingelai?
Yeah, mfethu. I think, well, but in Islungu, but when things change, it's when you realize that they remain the same. I think mfethu, that's one thing I keep saying. Ukuthi, I mean, mfethu, you sit down in your couch, you have a remote, you have everything.
Mm-hmm.
You are no longer moving, you're sitting in one place. And then you get to realize ukuthi, while the technology mfethu iba advanced, it's going to affect the health because, So there are certain things that as human beings we try to change, and then you realize ukuthi going back to basics is just a key in life. Mubuyela back to Stone Age, you find ukuthi ukuzingela was the main thing, When you realize ukuthi ukuzingela gaze kwashintsha, kusamile namanje.
Sure.
It's just a way of understanding how to go about.
Yeah.
Ngiphuma emsebenzini manje. Uphuma kwami ngemsebenzini ukuzingela,
Yeah.
I might not carry a spear and all that, but ukuzingela, Now, the reason why I wrote this book, I wanted to really highlight kubantu abaningi ukuthi I don't care success yakhe ihambe ikisaphi, but never do away with the art of hunting. Because the art of hunting never changes.
Come on.
We all wake up every morning, we hunt for opportunities. In fact, over the weekend, I sat down one is 5.5 and the older one is 8. I was just teaching them this thing. They need to understand this world is in a game, there are problems in this world.
Yes,
but people who will be rewarded are the people who will find solutions.
Yeah.
If you can master the thing, there are problems, and this life will reward people who come with solutions. It's all about hunting. That's how we hunt,
Wow.
When you look at the way the book starts, it will tell you about utshalumoba.
Yes.
Makutshala umoba kuzodingeka abantu abazohlakula, kuzodingeka abantu abazofaka umanyolo, kuzodingeka abantu abazochelela. All these things from the trucks that will carry the sugar cane to the sugar mills, security guards, accountants, the lawyers, the marketing team, engineers, all those things. Exactly. All I'm trying to do, wherever you are planted, look for opportunities.
Sure.
There are solutions that were discovered 50 years ago. Right now, there are problems in this generation that will require new solutions.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote this book, and I wrote it in isiZulu because there are certain books that I want to keep simple kubantu bageti.
Yeah.
Let us understand with society ophila kuyo there are problems.
Yeah.
That's why mfethu usuke unganakile when all of a sudden somebody comes and they put a table, all of a sudden they're selling fruit. You like they've analyzed which here's a problem, you know.
Yeah.
Bakunda ke abantu, you know.
Yeah.
Where are people washing their cars, you know? And just on that, the biggest challenge for some of us who grew up from our backgrounds that were very poor, we fall into a trap of wanting to give things freely to our children, you know, because now we feel like we struggle, they don't have to struggle.
Yeah.
And then you find within so doing, you are no longer equipping them to hand.
Yeah.
Because they can live in a mansion, you could drive some of the biggest cars.
Yeah.
They could have some of the biggest businesses like I, but never rob them. We're out of hunting.
Yeah.
Because njengoba ngifundisa umhlengi no-Anesu, the hunting thing, it's so that i-comfort esibanikeza yona sinompilo, it mustn't deceive them to feel ukuthi because ekhaya ubaba and my mother have got this, I don't have to hunt.
Yes, sir.
That's where the biggest challenge is. I met some of the richest people. The challenge they have is that their kids are not driven enough. Poverty has this thing of putting you in a place where you are driven to really achieve things. But we rob our children now because they have all the things, TV, they can watch whatever they want to watch. There's everything in the fridge.
Yeah.
They have their own rooms here. It's comfortable. But the minute you don't teach them to hunt, then their lives will be doomed. And then you'll never rest as well because you'll realize, you would say, I'm living this earth, but I've never taught these guys the hunting skills, you know. So my boys are very young, but they know that I'm teaching them daily.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going out to hunt now. You know,
Yeah.
when I leave the house, they know that dad is going out to hunt, mom is going out to hunt. There are problems out there that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The reason why I write this book is because there was a problem and I'm bringing in a solution.
Yeah.
You know, so the problem and the solution, it's a hunting skill, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of people who think hunting thing is a Stone Age thing.
Yeah.
We don't go out with spears like we used to, but we still go out every morning, seeking opportunities, identifying problems so that we could bring in solutions.
So how does one become aware of opportunities that are around them? You know, because Konomonia was saying, hey, man, I'm waiting for capital. I always hear that. Hey, I'm waiting for capital to start that business. You know, how do you move a needle for that person to start progressing because they have maybe they study a certain degree, and they end up not finding low msebenzi and not looking for any other possible opportunities around them.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe before I answer that, let me highlight this point. I have a problem with our education system, a very, very serious problem, because our education system, I feel, is not designed to teach us to hunt.
Yes, sir.
That's why one could have a master's degree in business, but they can't go back home and look around and see opportunities in relation to business. So you can't tell me what you've given me a master's degree in business or starting businesses, but you've never really given me a task to start a business now before I give you a qualification.
Come on.
You know, a business that can sustain you, you know. So let me say this, it will come across as if I'm boasting, but for those who know me, they know with this, getting a master's degree, it gives me a right to really question this education system. Because it's not like it's something that I'm questioning from afar.
Yes.
I've gone through this system.
Yeah.
The worst thing with our education system is that it does not put us in a place where we can think.
Sure.
There's no way it's ukuthi singaba nabantu abaningi abanama-degrees nama-masters but sibe ne-unemployment rate engaka. If education system, let me come back to this point, if education system was teaching us to solve problems,
Sure.
if education system was teaching us to solve problems, we wouldn't be where we are. But because the system is just designed to give us certificates so that we can go sit at a certain desk and do whatever that we are tasked to do, not to really come up with solutions. Let me move from there. Elinye iphuzu mfethu that I find very fascinating. I've heard some of the people preach on this. I think I find it very fascinating. It talks about Moses, when God approaches Moses
Yes, sir.
to take him back to Egypt, you know. I've heard some preachers highlight that God had to use whatever that was in Moses' hand, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That stick that he had, it ended up becoming. So I'm not going to say much about Lama Capital and all that, but from where I'm sitting, all I know, I know great people who started with whatever that they had.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of people who started with whatever that they had. I know a guy who wrote the entire book from his phone. From his phone, he wrote an entire book. Whatever that you have, to use whatever that you have to get to.
Yeah.
Uvusithembe kwayo like saying this thing ukuthi uma ekuhlangana nomuntu osemgwaqeni upusha imoto in the rain, ngisho ngathi ugqoke isudu, we are tempted to park your car and help that guy push his car.
Yeah.
But uma uzohlangana nomuntu nje eyimele emgwaqeni, they need help but they are not doing anything, you know. I hold this belief ukuthi whatever that you want will find you along the way.
Yes, sir.
Whatever that you desire will find you along the way. Keep moving, you will attract things that will be in alignment with what you desire. A lot of people are waiting for the Messiah. Maybe not, let me not use that. But a lot of people are just waiting for this politician, you know,
Yes, sir.
to come and help them. Then you get to realize that these politicians are there for themselves, you know, are in it for themselves, you know. And while I'm at that, in fact, the biggest challenge that we have, I'm not going to say South Africans, but let me say our nation, is that we've been conditioned to wait for help.
Yes.
You know, and while you wait for help, that thing is damaging you like you'll never believe, you know. Up until you reach a stage where you are able to really be in motion. I am where I am right now. I've attracted people in me because I was in motion, I was going somewhere. If you can do that with your life, whatever that you are doing, just be in motion. People will tag along the way, you know. Just have that in mind. Let them capital I'm not gonna say much, but all I know, I'm gonna repeat myself. I know great people who became great simply because they started with whatever that was in their hands.
Yeah.
And God honored them.
Yeah.
Because it says, whatever that your hand finds, do it unto the Lord. You know, whatever that is in your hand, just go all out with it. If you can do that, God will multiply, and God will multiply. That's all I know.
So wow, that's incredible. In fact, that's how even this podcast came about. Because I was waiting for the right opportunity, and then I realized what you don't start from where you hope to be, you start from where you are.
Very powerful.
And you started having conversations because you don't know the impacts that's going to happen to the other person on the other hand. And I was listening to you this morning, and you're speaking about leaving a mark, you know, and how important is it for you to be faithful with what you have been given, an opportunity that you've been given to study and to work, no matter what insignificant opportunity. Can you talk to us about that?
I think one of the parables that fascinates me in the Bible is it's a parable of talents. You know, it fascinates me. One gets given 5, and the other one gets given 2, and then the third guy gets given a talent. You know, and they are all tasked to go do whatever that they are required to do. You know, and it's quite amazing. That thing works in proportion. You know, whoever was given 5 was expected to return 5. Whoever was given 2 was expected to return 2. This guy who feels life dealt him Mama Katanyako right, he was not expected to return 5 or 2. He was expected to return back in proportion to what he was given. You know, so we are all given something, but you know, not all of us will be on podiums, not all of us will be on radio, not all of us, but we are all this thing of faithfulness. You know, you know, it's all about the faithfulness in to. You can only honor uNkulunkulu ngokusebenzisa lokho akunikeze khona. That's all I believe in. And I mean, you can read 1,000 books in faith. They all come back to this thing, you know. But whatever that you've been entrusted with, make sure that you honor uNkulunkulu. That's stewardship. You know, you have been entrusted with this. Do in accordance to what God expects.
Wow.
You know.
Wow, bro. And so now you've started a movement. I would call it a movement. Men's Bride Dialogue, and
Yeah.
where you gather men together.
Yeah.
And what's the objective of that
Yeah,
gathering?
let me put it this way. This one time we live in Durban, you know, the casino lapana. There's this place next, the shopping centers next to Moses Mabhida, Suncoast Casino, something like that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's me, my wife, and our friend, you know. So we're the four of us. We are together all along, you know, walking to the stadium. And then I think there was a moment for about 2 minutes or so where we were separated from our wives, you know. You know, me and this guy are busy talking about Messi, football, and all that. We're excited. We're going to be watching Kaiser Chiefs, and then we're talking Messi. That 2 minutes, and then our wives join us, and then we go watch soccer. As we're driving back to Pietermaritzburg, and then Umpilo says, "Hey, we need to pray for our friends." You know, like, what do you mean? Like, no, you remember that moment when you guys were separated from you guys? A friend told me this and that, you know. She listed a whole lot of things, you know. She was sharing with Nompilo what they were going through as a couple.
Yes, sir.
It turns out that the guy that I was with was going through some challenges.
Yes, sir.
He does not disclose to me. We've been friends with this guy for more than 15 years or so, or 10 years. Let me say 10 years.
Yeah.
We are for more than 15 years at that point in time. I know he's like a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
But he does not share that with me. My wife and the lady, they share things, you know. And as we're driving back, I'm realizing, as men, it's so easy for us to talk about politics. It's so easy for us to talk about football, while there are really, really issues that could really cause somebody to commit suicide.
Sure.
But we are not disclosing them, or we are not talking about them, you know. So I kind of like realized, almost every group I'm part of, we are talking about football, we are talking about politics, we're talking about everything except the issues that matter the most.
Yeah.
When ladies meet, they will talk about their children, who's doing what and what, you know. But we as guys, we will exaggerate things, you know. We will talk about everything, you know. We'll just exaggerate about everything. Even when who's on the verge of divorce, you know, the wife is complaining ukuthi mhlambe uyazela lo baba lo akalali usheshalala mhlambe into njengaleyo. They will never talk about that. Guys, I'm struggling with something, I need help. No, we don't disclose that, you know. We'd rather keep that to ourselves until things crumble down. You know, it's not like we'll reach a point where like, okay, guys, I think I'm struggling. So I started Men's Bride Dialogue for that reason.
Wow.
Let us create an environment where, as guys, we are not creating a group of guys who will be sorry and weak. No.
Yeah.
But we are creating a group of guys who have a full awareness of who they are.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The Bible says God is a lion and a lamb.
Yeah.
Lion and the lamb.
Sure.
When you check these two characteristics of these two animals, you put them together, a lion and a lamb. Hey, the thing is powerful.
Yeah.
For the Bible to say God is the lion and the lamb. In fact, I like good revelation when you join to don't weep, because the Lion of Judah was conquered. Look at the throne. And then when he put his eyes on the throne, he doesn't see the lion, he sees the lamb.
Sure.
The biggest challenge for us men is that we are grappling with this thing. We don't know with him. In us, there are these two characteristics.
Yeah.
There's a lion and a lamb. The society wants us to cherish the lion and not cherish the lamb.
Yeah.
And because of that, we are drowning.
Yo.
Because there's a lion and a lamb. You know, we need to contrast these two and bring them together. Once you do that, you begin to realize it's okay. That's why with David was comfortable with his masculinity. The guy was muscular, just like me, you know. The guy could fight.
Yeah.
The guy was like, he was the toughest guy who could fight. But when it comes to vulnerability, when I rope with that guy, he knew what I was saying. If now I have to be vulnerable, this is what I'm going through. I'm gonna take that to God, and just be vulnerable. So up until men understand the lion and the lamb, and how to bring that into us, and how to clothe ourselves with the lion and the lamb, we will find ourselves just battling with things, and our women will find themselves seeking us wherever we are in the rooms. She will be here looking for me there, only to find that I'm there. And by the time she gets there, because while she wants me to be vulnerable so that she could really connect with me, I'm struggling with that. She's also not sure as well, because she's not used to a guy who's vulnerable. It's not like we are where women have always been. They are also still grappling with this thing. She grew up with the brothers and the father who was never vulnerable. And all of a sudden, there's an expectation for her boyfriend to be vulnerable. But she does not understand what vulnerability is. Because all of a sudden, she'll be talking to her friends with, hey, I feel like he's expressing himself cool, Why? It's because she's also grappling with this thing. At times, women will act as if they are ahead of us. They understand this thing. The truth of the matter is, some of them are still grappling with this thing. They don't understand what it feels for a guy to come back from work and sit you down and say, this is how my day went. What does she do after that?
Yo, that's fire, bro. I remember speaking with one of the guys that went to the Men's Pride Dialogue when we were here in Maritzburg. Immediately after that meeting, he said, I'm going to forgive my father. Yo, bro.
God is great. God is great.
And there's this term that you always use, it's God is love. Bro, it's incredible. But signature yakho but bro, thank you so much for just coming through. You are a real blessing.
It's all mine.
And I love the way that you lead your life, that you lead your family. You're not you often in your ukubukeka ngathi uyalead, but just walking your family through it, it's very critical. And living a life that is submitted to uNkulunkulu is incredible, and you're going far, and God has anointed you, God has called you, and you're not just called for this nation, you're called for nations. And thank you so much for making time to come and have a chat with us and encourage our community. Thank you so much.
God is great. God is love.
God is love.
Thank you so much.
Hey, yo. Yo, brother.